Time quickly slipped into night. Night fell above the silver dragon castle. The moon and stars gathered, silently lighting the dim sky with their faint glow. Leon, Rosewise, Noah, and Moana enjoyed a delicious dinner together in the dining room of the silver dragon castle. Today's dinner is a steak made by Rosewise. Because the steak was so delicious, Moana couldn't help but eat a lot. After dinner, she held a knife and lay on the dining table. She showed a happy expression as if she was extremely satisfied with tonight's meal. I really can't eat anymore. My stomach is so full. Noah sat next to Moana and drank water from a cup. When she heard what Moana said, Noah gently reminded her, "After eating so much, of course you'll feel uncomfortable if you lie down." Moana lightly shook her head and giggled a few times. She lazily replied to Noah, "Mom's steak is so delicious." Noah put down the cup in her hand and thought for a moment. Suddenly, she came up with a way to help Moana not feel so stuffed. She gently took Moana's hand and led her toward the door of the dining room. She said to Moana, "Let's go for a walk outside to help with digestion. Walk 2 laps and then come back." Hearing that, Moana instantly perked up. She really enjoys spending time or playing with Noah. She looked at Noah with hopeful eyes and said, "Yeah, Moana wants to go for a walk with Noah." Moana smiled and happily grabbed Noah's arm with both hands. She leaned against Noah and left the dining table with her. Noah turned her head and told Rosewise that they were going out for a while to avoid making her worry. "Mom, we're going out now." Rosewise responded while tidying up the dishes and utensils on the dining table. "Okay, be careful. Today, Leon is responsible for washing the dishes." At this moment, Leon was wearing an apron and gloves, standing in front of the kitchen sink washing dishes. Rosewise brought the remaining bowls and plates to the kitchen and said, "This is the last pile of bowls and dishes." Leon turned his head, looked at them, and said, "Oh, just put them here." After a while, Leon washed all the bowls, dishes, and utensils clean. Just then, he suddenly remembered something. He casually asked Rosewise, "Speaking of which, next Tuesday is your birthday, right?" Leon picked up a clean cloth, wiped the plate in his hand, and turned his head to ask Rosewise about it. Rosewise was a bit surprised by Leon's sudden question. She put one hand on her chin and raised her head, thinking for a moment. She murmured to herself, "Tuesday is October 25th. This is indeed the day I was born." When it comes to the Dragon Clan's birthday, we need to add a bit of knowledge here. The way dragons calculate birthdays is slightly different from humans. The lifespan of dragons is long, and before reaching adulthood, they celebrate once every year. But after adulthood, they celebrate their birthday only once every 10 years. Rosewise is an adult dragon, so her birthday is only celebrated once every decade. However, she seems to have other ideas. Although there are still 2 years before my next birthday, I won't tell him that. She doesn't want Leon to know the Dragon Clan's birthday rules yet. Rosewise intended to tease Leon. She gave him a mischievous smile and asked, "Why did you suddenly mention my birthday? Are you planning to give me a gift?" Hearing that, Leon immediately felt annoyed, as if her words had poked him. He answered quickly, "How is that possible?" He tidied up the plates and prepared to put them in the cupboard. He had no thought of giving her a gift. After all, their relationship is quite special. With his back turned, he said, "Since ancient times, there has never been a reason for a prisoner to give a birthday gift to the victor." Seeing Leon's reaction, Rosewise found it quite amusing. Leon placed a portion of the bowls and plates on the table, ready to go get the rest. He closed his eyes, refusing to look directly at Rosewise. At that moment, Rosewise came up with another idea. She walked over to Leon and bent down slightly to look at him. "But since you don't want to give me a gift, you should at least celebrate in some other way, right?" Leon seemed a bit interested. He opened his eyes and looked at Rosewise, asking, "Other ways of celebrating?" Rosewise closed her eyes and gently pressed her temple with her fingers, pretending to think very hard. "For example, you can help me hold a birthday party." Hearing that, Leon was shocked. He pointed at himself and asked in disbelief, "Me?" He never expected Rosewise to want him to plan her birthday party. Still, Leon didn't immediately agree. He frowned slightly, troubled by her suggestion. "You're the queen of the Silver Dragon Clan. There'll be plenty of dragons lining up to celebrate your birthday. Do you really need me to handle this?" As the queen, Leon believed she could simply use her authority. As long as she announced she wanted to celebrate her birthday, others would surely help her organize a grand, luxurious party, even without his involvement. Rosewise gently shook her head, a bit disappointed by his answer. She told him something about last year's birthday. "Last year you were still unconscious, and the children were begging to celebrate my birthday with you. Now that you're awake this year, shouldn't you make it up to us?" Leon looked nervously at Rosewise. He murmured to himself, compensation! He could imagine how missing Rosewise's birthday last year must have made Moana and Noah feel sad. But Leon truly didn't want to celebrate Rosewise's birthday. He thought silently, I don't want to disappoint my daughters, but I also don't want to obediently host a birthday party for her, he stated. Rosewise gently patted his shoulder and gave him an expectant look. To put it nicely, as the model husband of the family, it's normal for you to celebrate your wife's birthday. You don't want others thinking we're having relationship issues, right? Leon was speechless, unsure how to respond. He purposely argued back, what if you don't put it tactfully? Rosewise realized what Leon was trying to express. She was very unhappy with his words. She crossed her arms and placed them on her chest, showing an angry expression. With the poise of a queen, she cast a sharp glance at Leon and issued a threat. What right does a prisoner have to bargain with me? Do whatever I ask you to do. Leon could feel a wave of dissatisfaction radiating from Rosewise. In daily life, Rosewise often spoke to him this way. He nodded lightly and silently said in his heart, that's her normal reaction. Although Leon wasn't willing to celebrate Rosewise's birthday, under her threat he had to figure out how to organize a birthday party for her. He pointed at her and said, just wait and see. I'll give you an unforgettable birthday in human form. Upon hearing Leon agree to her request, Rosewise felt happy. She shrugged, looking indifferent to Leon's words. However, she had another requirement for Leon. Okay, however, if you still can't satisfy me in the end, you'll have to give me some other explanation. Do you understand? Rosewise looked at Leon and gave him a meaningful smile. Leon looked at her with a slightly nervous mood. Although Rosewise didn't explicitly state what other explanations meant, Leon understood the meaning. However, Leon didn't feel afraid because of her words. He assured her with great confidence, I will definitely satisfy you. He raised a hand to Rosewise. She knew what he wanted to do. She raised her hand too and held his. This meant their agreement was sealed. The next day arrived. Leon brought Noah and Moana to Rosewise's private library. Noah found a book on the shelf and sat on the sofa reading seriously. Next to her, Leon attentively gave Moana a lesson. Magic in this world is ever-changing, with countless ways to use it. The magic circle is one of them. By combining circles, many magical purposes can be achieved, like Moana's favorite fried steak. We can integrate cutting magic and flame magic into the magic circle. After a while, Leon finished today's class. He closed the book in his hand and asked Moana, that's all for today. Do you have any questions? Moana happily stood up and answered, no. Moana understands all the knowledge. Leon was very happy that Moana could quickly understand everything. While he chatted with her, Noah secretly glanced at them. She had heard how Leon taught Moana magic. Regarding his teaching style, she murmured to herself, Moana is lively and doesn't like a serious classroom atmosphere, so he teaches her in a way she enjoys. Sure enough, he's the best and most knowledgeable father in the world. When vacation comes, I'll ask him to teach me thunder magic too. Although Noah didn't often express her thoughts to Leon, she really liked his personalized teaching. Her face blushed with shyness. She quietly covered her face with the book to avoid being noticed. Leon organized the books on his desk and stacked them. Then, he suddenly remembered there was something he hadn't asked Noah and Moana. He looked up at them. Oh, Moana, Noah. Do you know what Mom usually likes? Moana quickly raised her hand and shook it excitedly. I know. Seeing that she knew what Rosewise liked, Leon looked relieved and silently praised her. Dad doesn't raise you for nothing. You're the most useful when it counts. Mom likes Dad. She likes Dad very much. Moana clenched her fists happily, her eyes sparkling. She looked at Leon with confidence. In her opinion, Rosewise and Leon were a very loving couple. Hearing Moana's response, Leon felt speechless at her innocence. That wasn't the answer he wanted. He wanted to know what specific things Rosewise liked, not who she liked. He silently thought, in your eyes, we're deeply fond of each other. Seeing Leon stare blankly at her, Moana felt confused. She walked up to him and asked, Dad, why aren't you talking? Was Moana wrong? Leon didn't answer right away. He grabbed a chair, sat down, lifted Moana into his lap. He gently touched her cheek and didn't blame her. You're right, baby. Dad just wants to know if Mom likes anything else besides me? Moana stared blankly. After thinking hard, she still couldn't come up with anything. Noah closed her book. She recalled something from Sky City when collecting writing materials. At the time, Anna said something like this to her and Muan. Mom said the life of the Dragon Clan is too long. All good things must end. So for her, the fleeting beauty is more worth remembering. Hearing that, Leon was surprised. The fleeting beauty. He placed a hand on his chin and pondered deeply. Muan, sitting on his thigh, imitated him with a serious face. Then Leon suddenly clapped his right hand onto his left palm. He had quickly figured out what kind of birthday gift Rosewise would like. He said happily, I've got it. I know what to prepare for her. Muan mimicked him again, pretending she also knew. Leon touched her head gently and told both her and Noah, class ends here. Dad has something to prepare. You two can keep reading. Muan looked puzzled, not knowing what he planned. After placing her on the ground, Leon rushed to the library entrance. He clearly couldn't wait to prepare Rosewise's birthday gift and party. Noah and Muan watched him leave quickly. Even though Muan didn't know where he was going, she felt his excitement. Dad looks very happy. Noah wasn't surprised. I guess he went to find something Mom likes. Today was Rosewise's birthday. That evening, Rosewise received gifts from Noah, Muan, and her personal attendants. They gave her gifts of all sizes, all delicately wrapped in different colored boxes and ribbons just for her. It was clear they treated her birthday with special care. After thanking them one by one, Rosewise picked up all the gifts carefully and headed back to her room. Walking down the hallway with several boxes in her arms, she looked around. But that familiar figure was nowhere to be found. From morning until now, no matter where she went, Rosewise hadn't seen Leon, which left her puzzled. Where did that guy go? He said he'd help me hold a birthday party, but he's been missing all day. When she reached her door, she noticed it was open. Peering through the crack, she saw Leon pacing around inside and even placing a large object on the table. He was clearly doing something secretly, but the room wasn't lit, so she couldn't see well. Holding her gifts close, Rosewise slowly pushed the door open. Scanning the room, she said, Leon, what are you doing in my room? Before she could finish, Leon suddenly popped a party popper over her head. With a loud bang, colorful ribbons and tiny papers rained down. Rosewise widened her eyes in surprise. He had actually prepared something for her. Leon grinned, party popper in hand. Happy birthday, she-dragon. On the table sat a birthday cake he made himself. It had 3 layers, each filled with fruit. On the first layer, he'd written, Happy birthday, Rosewise, in chocolate. The most outrageous part was that every layer was stuffed with candles, so many that it looked like a huge glowing bulb from afar. Leon had sneaked into her room just to craft this special surprise. Rosewise pretended to stay calm. She walked over, set her gifts on the sofa, and said shyly, Is this the birthday surprise you prepared? It'd be better if you used my name instead of She-Dragon. Leon smiled and shrugged casually. Haha, next time for sure. Rosewise bent down slightly to observe the cake. Although simple-looking, the fruits added bright colors. She hadn't expected Leon to make something like this for her. She gently scraped some cream with her finger. This looks pretty good. Do humans always light candles and eat cake on birthdays? She asked. Leon replied, Well, yeah, it's a custom, and this big cake was really tough to make. Rosewise tasted the cream. It melted instantly, sweet and rich. She was satisfied. The taste is good, too. Just as she was about to cut the cake, Leon rushed over and stopped her. She blinked in confusion. Wait, he said, don't eat yet. The birthday person has to blow out the candles and make a wish. There were 218 candles, matching Rosewise's age. Seeing the sheer number, she frowned. Do I really have to blow all of these? Are you messing with me? Leon shook his head. Nope. You said I should follow human customs strictly, and humans put candles for every year of age. Your Majesty, please blow the candles, he said with a suspiciously smug smile. He clearly wanted to embarrass her. From that expression, Rosewise could instantly tell. Knowing Leon, he would never miss a chance to cause her trouble. If she followed along obediently, she'd definitely end up embarrassed. She looked him up and down skeptically, thinking, I knew he wouldn't take my birthday seriously. If he wants to prank me, he won't get away so easily. Rosewise smiled sweetly, grabbed his arm tightly, and yanked him close. Fine. But you're blowing them with me. Leon froze. He tried to pull his arm back, but failed. Hey, this is your birthday. Why should I blow the candles? Rosewise stared sharply. As my captive, isn't it an honor to blow candles with your queen? Hurry up. Her tone had shifted, and Leon could feel it. Helpless, he said, I know. He had realized she intended to drag him into the consequences of his own prank. He thought, I made my bed. Guess I'm lying in it. The two of them stood before the cake, took a deep breath, then blew with all their strength. But with so many candles, a huge puff of smoke rose. They accidentally inhaled it, coughing nonstop. Persistent coughing filled the room as they covered their noses and mouths. Rosewise scowled. Humans are so boring. Why do you even do this? Leon replied irritably, Oh, please. Normally there are only 20 or so candles. Humans don't live centuries like dragons. The smoke finally drifted out with the wind. The candles were out, leaving only faint wisps. Leon urged, Hurry up and make a wish. Rosewise closed her eyes, annoyed, then straightened up. Tsk. I know. Rosewise folded her hands together and placed them before her chest. She lowered her head slightly, quietly pondering the wish she wanted to make. Leon stood beside Rosewise, watching her in silence. He silently thought to himself, I don't know what wish the she-dragon could possibly have. As the Silver Dragon Queen, she could easily obtain anything she desired. That only made him even more curious. He knew the queen lacked nothing, and she possessed the power to claim whatever she wanted. Still, Rosewise made a devout wishing gesture before the cake, just as Leon instructed. She closed her eyes and whispered her wish. I hope my captive can never escape. Hearing Rosewise's wish, Leon froze in shock. Confused, he muttered, Huh? He absolutely didn't expect her to wish for something like that. Leon turned his head toward Rosewise, clearly displeased. If that wish came true, he truly would never be able to leave Silver Dragon Castle. To him, it felt like a threat. He complained, Wishes aren't meant to be used like that. What if it really works? Rosewise cracked one eye open at him, a mischievous smile curling on her lips. This is none of your concern, she said. It's my birthday. I can make any wish I want. Hearing that, Leon simply surrendered the argument. He sat on the sofa and removed all the candles from the cake. He picked up a knife and plate beside the cake and muttered, Forget it. Your birthday. Your rules. I won't argue anymore. Leon sliced a piece of cake with Happy Birthday written on it, placed it on a plate, and handed it to Rosewise. Here, have some cake. Rosewise accepted it with both hands and murmured, Thank you. Leon cut another slice, this one with Rosewise written on it, and set it on his plate. At that moment, Rosewise noticed her name on the piece Leon chose. Realizing he intended to eat it, she felt slightly annoyed. Wait, why are you eating that one? She demanded. Leon answered calmly, Why not? I just want to eat it, Rosewise. Leon forked a bite and popped it into his mouth. The sweet flavor instantly relaxed him. He flashed Rosewise a satisfied grin. Wow, this is sweet and sour. Rosewise is really delicious. Seeing his expression, Rosewise grew furious. She knew he was teasing her on purpose. Her brows tightened, and her glare became sharp enough to cut steel. Her anger surged so hard, she snapped the fork in her hand. Fuming, she growled, Damn it! When your birthday comes, I swear I'll cut off Leon and paste it on your face to make you eat it. Her rage flared like a blazing fire behind her. Even her gaze felt hot. She stared at Leon as if she might beat him senseless at any moment. Leon felt a strange chill crawl down his back. He thought nervously, I have a bad feeling about this. He wanted to turn around and confirm the danger, but he didn't dare meet Rosewise's eyes. Suddenly, something came to mind. He glanced out the window to check the timing. Oh, it's almost time. I have a gift for you. Rosewise turned toward him, confused. A gift? She grew curious. Leon set down his cake, gently took her arm, and helped her rise from the sofa. Come on. He guided her to the balcony and asked her to wait there. Rosewise hurriedly set her cake aside and followed him. Though he hadn't said what the gift was, she looked left, then right, searching. But nothing appeared before her except the flowers of the nearby forest and garden. No sign of any gift. Her confusion deepened. Where is it? There's nothing here. Leon walked to the railing, facing her. He closed his eyes with a confident smile. He seemed almost proud of what he'd prepared. Don't worry, he said, slowly raising his left hand. He snapped his fingers lightly. Instantly, a beam of blue lightning magic shot up from the nearby forest at incredible speed. It burst like fireworks in the night sky, forming luminous words. Happy birthday, Rosewise. A halo of blue lightning circled the message, lighting up the dark sky. Even the stars seemed dim beside its brilliance. Thunder rumbled through the air as if nature itself were giving Rosewise birthday blessings. Leon opened his arms, showing her the spectacle. The electric glow reflected vividly in her eyes. Her eyes widened slightly in awe. This is, Leon explained. I drew it using a thunder element magic circle, but it only lasts a few seconds. Just as he said that, the lightning words faded, leaving drifting blue particles behind. Like fireworks blooming and vanishing on a deep blue canvas, it ended in an instant. Watching the fading lights, Rosewise smiled. For her, this brief magic was enough to become unforgettable. She had no real need for material things. This fleeting surprise was more than enough. She whispered, "This is already sufficient." The fleeting beauty is more worth remembering, right? Leon repeated the very words she once told Anna. After learning from his daughter that Rosewise enjoyed such surprises, he used his magic to create this gift. Her reaction told him she truly loved it. Hearing him, Rosewise was momentarily speechless. A faint blush rose on her cheeks, touched by his sincerity. She smiled softly. That's right. For her, this gift was more than enough. After the magical display, she returned to her room with Leon. Leon nudged her arm with his elbow. So, are you satisfied now, Your Majesty? Rosewise nodded. Yes. I didn't expect you to be so good at preparing a birthday celebration. Leon smirked proudly. Of course. Every time my donkey has a birthday, I personally host it. I'm very experienced. Realizing he just compared her to a donkey, Rosewise instantly exploded with anger. Damn it! She shouted. Above them, the moon quietly listened, watching the pair's amusing exchange. The next morning arrived bright and clear. The sun rose from the foot of the mountain, lighting up the sky with warm morning glow. Sunlight spread across the trees and lawn, making the castle's surroundings lively and vibrant. The golden light coated the castle like a thin veil. Birds chirped outside, signaling everyone to wake up. In Rosewise's room, she had already woken up. She opened her mouth, yawned, and quietly sat on the sofa. She covered another yawn with her hand. Clearly, she hadn't slept well. Leon woke up at the same time. He found a large pink gift box and placed the leftover cake inside, planning to share it with others in the castle. When he looked up, he noticed Rosewise yawning again. He asked, "Why do you keep yawning?" Rosewise closed her eyes and gently rubbed her temples, trying to wake herself. "No, I'm just a bit sleepy lately," she said. Then she glanced down at her stomach. Even though her abdomen didn't look different, she felt something had changed. She touched it lightly and thought it felt slightly bigger, even though she had been eating well and exercising regularly. She glanced at Leon packing the cake. If anything had changed lately, it was that the frequency of her homework sessions with him had decreased, but she still couldn't figure out why her abdomen felt different. After packing the cake, Leon tied the gift box with a red ribbon and made a neat bow. While doing so, he joked, "So even the queen slacks off sometimes. I always thought you were a total workaholic." Rosewise frowned slightly, annoyed. She felt like he was calling her lazy. She stood up abruptly, clenched her fist, and snapped, "I work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, without a single day off all year. Is it wrong for me to sleep a little longer today?" Leon panicked at her sudden anger. He raised his hands and said, "It's nothing. Just rest. Suddenly, Rosewise felt dizzy. Her head spun sharply, making her uncomfortable. She closed her eyes and held her head. She staggered, unable to stand steadily, and collapsed back onto the sofa. The dizziness and buzzing in her head left her thoughts blank for a moment. Leon immediately put down the cake box and rushed to her. "What's wrong? Are you sick?" he asked, but Rosewise was too dizzy to respond. She leaned back and tried to rest. Leon assumed she had a fever. He placed a hand on her forehead but found no heat. You don't have a fever." Rosewise felt shy from his sudden concern. Her cheeks tinted pink. She turned her head away and whispered, "It's fine. I just stood up too fast and got dizzy." Leon couldn't help a bit of schadenfreude. He rarely saw her like this. With a mischievous grin, he said, "Oh, you should drink more hot water." Rosewise grew irritated by his perfunctory attitude. She frowned deeply and glared at him. Not wanting him in front of her anymore, she kicked him out and shouted, "Get out of my room!" Before Leon could react, he was instantly transported outside her door. Even so, he found her reaction amusing. Smiling, he carried the cake box to the kitchen to share it with others. Rosewise's birthday ended with unexpected chaos and warmth. A few days later, Leon, as always, took Noah and Moana to Rosewise's private library. Noah quietly read on the sofa, while Leon continued teaching Moana magic. After assigning Moana her homework, he went back to searching for books about his magic exhaustion. Noah noticed him constantly picking up books and reading them intensely. She walked over and asked, "Dad, are you looking for something?" Leon quickly returned the book to the shelf. To avoid suspicion, he smiled and said, "No, I'm just looking around to pass the time." He didn't want Noah or Moana to know about his condition. If they knew, they'd worry, and worse, Rosewise might hear about it. In his mind, he imagined Rosewise learning he couldn't use magic normally, giving a wicked smile and mocking him like a demon. "Ha ha ha, you're so weak." The imaginary scene made him smile awkwardly. Then, he remembered Moana was working on her homework. He asked Noah, "Has Moana finished?" Noah put her book back and replied, "Not yet, but she's almost done." Moana pouted her lips as she diligently wrote. Whenever she came across a difficult question, she paused, thought carefully, then continued writing. Earlier, Noah had observed Moana and noticed her learning speed was incredibly fast. She told Leon, "With your teaching and Moana's speed, Dad, she should be able to start magic enlightenment this month." Noticing that Noah had her own opinion on Moana's learning progress, Leon grew curious. While searching for the next book on the bookshelf, he asked her, asking if she thought Moana would awaken the thunder element or the fire element. Noah reached out, placing her hand on her chin as she thought seriously for a moment, then shared her opinion with Leon. Mom's element is fire, Dad is thunder, and she is also thunder. To balance Mom's psyche, if she were Moana, she would try her best to awaken the fire element. Hearing her words, Leon slightly bent down and gently touched Noah's head. He smiled at her and said, "Haha, what elements a person can awaken aren't determined by hard work." At that moment, Noah suddenly remembered there was something she still hadn't told Leon. "Oh, Dad, thunder element." Leon noticed Noah seemed to want to tell him something, so he asked her, What's wrong?" Noah lowered her head slightly and stared at the ground, looking a bit shy about what she was about to say. She said she would be on winter vacation in just over a month and asked if he could teach her more thunder magic then. With that, she hoped she could learn next semester's courses more smoothly. She truly hoped Leon could guide her in thunder magic during the winter vacation. But upon hearing her request, Leon felt uneasy. He still hadn't found the reason behind his magic exhaustion. He couldn't show her his magic normally. He silently said in his heart, "Not good. In my current state, I can't even demonstrate powerful magic to her." With that thought, Leon imagined a scene in his mind. Noah standing beside him, watching him cast magic. He reached out his hand and shouted the magic's name, Thunder Annihilation. But only 3 tiny blue lightning bolts flickered from his hand. He tried several more times, yet his magic refused to show the effect he wanted. Obviously, with his current abilities, he couldn't teach Noah more thunder magic. Dissatisfied with himself, Leon weakly knelt on the ground and shed tears of sadness. He never expected his weakened magic to embarrass him so badly in front of Noah. Seeing him unable to use magic normally, Noah slowly walked over. She crouched down and gently patted his back. She calmly comforted him, saying, "It's okay, Dad. You're also very cute like this." Noah stood up and turned to leave Leon. As she walked away, she told him to take care of his other tasks first. She would find Mom to teach her. Since Leon couldn't use powerful thunder magic, she had no choice but to seek guidance from Rosewise instead. Watching Noah walk away, Leon felt deeply sad. Even though he couldn't use thunder magic normally, dark clouds and thunder rolled overhead. He reached out toward Noah, trying to pull her back. No, this must never happen." Leon reached out and forcefully scattered the imagined scene. If that really happened, it would be devastating to him. He didn't want Noah to be disappointed in him, nor did he want Rosewise to steal the chance to show Noah his powerful magic. Flames of determination lit up in his eyes. His passion and fighting spirit erupted from the image he imagined. He clenched his fists tightly and made up his mind. "My family status is earned by me, and my place in my daughter's heart must also be earned." To keep his position in the hearts of Noah and Moana, he absolutely couldn't refuse her request. He didn't want them to ever doubt his powerful image. Noticing Leon still hadn't responded, Noah grew a little disappointed. She thought he found her request too difficult, which was why he didn't want to agree. She looked at him and said, "If it's not convenient, forget about it." Just as Noah was about to give up on Leon guiding her thunder magic, Leon bent down slightly and gently patted her shoulder. He had to respond before she changed her mind. Looking at her with unwavering determination, he promised her, "Of course. No problem. Don't worry, Dad will definitely teach you thunder magic seriously." Upon hearing his agreement, Noah's eyes sparkled. Her face couldn't hide her excitement. She asked him again, "Really?" Leon nodded. "I keep my word." Noah happily approached him and hugged his neck. She kissed him gently on the cheek and thanked him. "Dad, thank you." Leon froze, stunned by her sudden affection. He didn't expect Noah to show her feelings so directly. Noah quickly let go and turned around, not wanting him to notice her shy expression. Even after she left, Leon didn't immediately realize it. He stood there with a slight blush, mind blank, unable to think of any words to describe her actions or respond properly. Noah didn't want to stand in front of him too long. She walked quickly toward Moana, saying, "I'm going to see Moana." Though she tried to hide her excitement, her pace was fast and her steps light. She looked genuinely happy. Leon watched blankly as Noah headed to Moana's table. Unable to say a word, Leon reignited his fighting spirit. It felt like a blazing flame roared behind him. He stared forward, clenched his fists, and declared silently in his heart, "For my daughter, I must restore my magic before the holiday." Noah's affectionate gesture deeply encouraged him. He swore to uncover the cause of his magic exhaustion before winter vacation and find a way to restore it quickly. After calming down, Leon stepped forward and continued searching through the shelves for books about magic exhaustion. He touched his chin and thoughtfully reviewed the methods he'd tried in the past days and what he had read. In the past 2 weeks, he had ruled out several causes and tried various restoration methods, yet gained little. Was his entire research direction wrong? Suddenly, Leon thought of something. He froze, eyes widening slightly. Could it be that the problem isn't with him, but some external factor? Ever since becoming a captive of Rosewise, the only new thing on his body was the dragon mark. Leon lowered his head and brushed his fingers over his chest. Ever since Rosewise imprinted that strange purple dragon mark on him, his magic never returned to full strength. He had never noticed this influence until now. Did it absorb his magic? As if hearing his thoughts, the dragon mark slowly appeared on his chest. But its appearance didn't mean he was thinking of anything else. It emitted a faint purple glow, as if trying to send him a message. Since Leon mentioned things related to the dragon mark, let's briefly explain it. The dragon mark is an auxiliary magic used by dragon couples to maintain loyalty and enhance charm. It is usually inconspicuous, but when missing the other person, it turns a light purple. When the couple's bodies are entwined, it becomes a deep purple. If their physical intimacy deepens, the deep purple dragon mark continuously emits a bright light. During this time, Leon tried many methods and read countless books in the library, yet he still couldn't find the reason for his magic exhaustion. At that moment, he realized he had never considered his physical condition. He speculated that the dragon mark inside his body might be affecting his magic. So he returned to the bathroom in his room, took off his shirt, and summoned the dragon mark on his chest. He lowered his head and gently caressed the dragon mark, silently thinking. At first, Rosewise was just tormenting me with the dragon mark. If she had known it would steal my magic, she would have taken the chance to tease me long ago. Leon planned to release the magic within his body to test whether the dragon mark would absorb it. "Let me give it a try." He closed his eyes and slowly guided the magic within him. Leon lowered his head slightly and clenched his hands. Soon, countless blue lightning bolts appeared around his body, the magic of Leon's lightning element. The lightning tightly wrapped around him, crackling loudly as it waited for his command. Leon silently guided the flow. The magic moved through his palms, arms, shoulders, and finally toward his chest. He could clearly feel the magical energy from his head, shoulders, and hands converging through the magical circuits in his body. However, the moment the magic entered Leon's chest, it vanished, as if instantly absorbed by something inside him. The dragon mark emitted faint lightning, as though proving it hadn't completely absorbed the magic. Sensing the situation, Leon frowned slightly. He looked down at the dragon mark and whispered his conclusion. "As expected, my magic disappears as soon as it reaches my chest. But strangely, the dragon mark only absorbs a tiny fraction. The main thing stealing my magic is something else. As for magical circuits, there's a key point to understand. After magical enlightenment, a magic user can store refined magic within their magical circuits through continuous circulation, allowing it to be used at any time. These magical circuits spread throughout the body. Magic can be drawn from many areas, such as the brain, shoulders, or chest. Leon gently touched his chest. Based on his earlier test, he reached a conclusion. Something inside his body was stealing the magic flowing through his circuits, preventing him from storing it and creating the illusion of magic exhaustion. But the question remained, when did this thief appear in his body, and why did it devour his magic? Leon looked puzzled. He scratched his head in irritation. At least now, he understood the cause of his exhaustion. Yet no matter how much he thought about it, he couldn't identify what was secretly absorbing most of his magic. Leon turned to face the mirror, staring at his reflection with a serious gaze, and muttered softly, "So far there's been no abnormality in my body. I should be fine, right?" Suddenly something clicked. During the experiment, most of the magic had been absorbed by that unknown thing. But a small portion was absorbed by the dragon mark, and the magic stored there remained intact. Leon lightly tapped his right hand against his left as realization dawned. If the magic in the dragon mark isn't being absorbed, does that mean I can store magic there? Leon was delighted by the discovery. He patted his chest happily. Even if the storage speed was slow, it was far better than having nothing. As long as he slowly stored magic in the dragon mark, it wouldn't be completely devoured by the mysterious thing inside him. Leon stepped out of the bathroom and stretched his arms confidently. Let's do it. Starting today, I'll gather magic bit by bit. From then on, Leon gradually stored magic in the dragon mark every day. At the same time, he continued teaching Moana magic theory and released techniques as usual. After a period of diligent learning, Moana finally met the requirements for magical enlightenment. Leon and Rosewise chose an auspicious day for her ceremony. That day, the weather was exceptionally clear. Sunlight bathed the silver dragon castle, as if cheering for Moana. Leon woke up early. Yawning, he left his room and headed to the first-floor lobby. Today was Moana's elemental awakening, and as her father, he had to be there. Rosewise also happened to wake up around the same time. She opened the hall doors and ran into Leon, who had just arrived. Seeing Rosewise, Leon raised his hand and waved. "Good morning. The weather's really nice." Hearing his voice, Rosewise lifted her head and noticed that Leon had arrived earlier than her. She was slightly surprised by his greeting. After all, in the past, he rarely treated her so politely. She crossed her arms and glanced at him. "You're actually taking the initiative to greet me. Seems like you're in a good mood." Leon closed his eyes and spoke confidently. "Of course. Moana is about to awaken the same element as me. How could I not be happy?" Then Leon and Rosewise headed to the auditorium hall together to accompany Moana during the ceremony. Hearing his words, Rosewise snorted in dissatisfaction. Moana will definitely awaken the fire element. The Dragon Clan's genes are far stronger than you think. Leon laughed. If dragon genes are that powerful, why is Noah still a thunder element user? That's just probability, Rosewise replied. Seeing that she refused to admit Moana might awaken thunder, Leon stepped closer, his expression serious. If the thunder symbol appears in Moana's magic circle later, I wonder if you'll still be this stubborn. Rosewise frowned slightly and replied angrily, "Just wait and see." Inside the auditorium of the Silver Dragon Castle, Moana and Anna had arrived long ago. Anna was preparing for Moana's magical enlightenment ceremony. She held a book on magical enlightenment and carefully drew a magic circle on the hall floor according to the instructions. Moana stood quietly beside Anna, waiting for the ceremony to begin. The massive golden magic array occasionally emitted dazzling light. It was the first time Moana had seen such a magic formation. She couldn't help being deeply drawn to the golden glow, watching it with excitement. At that moment, she heard a commotion outside the auditorium. She turned her head and curiously looked toward the entrance. Suddenly, the auditorium doors were pushed open by Leon and Rosewise. The moment they stepped inside, they exchanged serious looks, their shoulders pressed tightly together as they pushed against one another. They were still arguing about which element Moana would awaken. Rosewise said angrily that Moana would definitely be just like her. Leon, unwilling to back down, loudly refuted her. No, she must be like me. Seeing Leon and Rosewise enter, Moana happily ran toward them. Dad, Mom. Noticing Moana, Leon and Rosewise immediately stopped arguing and smiled at her. Moana raised her hands and gently waved, her eyes filled with excitement and joy. She was truly looking forward to today's magical enlightenment ceremony. She lifted her head to look at Leon and Rosewise and said, "I'm about to awaken my innate element. You'll keep watching me later, right?" Rosewise bent down slightly and gently stroked Moana's head. With a soft expression, she replied, "Of course. Mom and Dad will be with you the whole time." Leon slowly squatted in front of Moana, reached out and gently patted her shoulders in encouragement. "Don't be nervous. Just relax. Do it the way Dad taught you." Muan nodded lightly and replied confidently. At that moment, Anna had already finished drawing the magic circle. She carefully inspected it several times, confirming there were no issues. Then she turned to Leon and Rosewise, bowed politely, and reported, "Your Majesty, Royal Highness, the awakening magic circle for Her Highness Muan is ready. The ceremony may begin at any time." Rosewise lightly patted Muan's back, signaling her to step forward. "Go on. Mom and Dad will always be here." Leon clenched his fist and cheered her on. "You can do it." Muan opened her arms, gathered her courage, and ran toward the magic circle. She quickly reached its center and adopted a serious expression. She clenched her hands into fists and held them at her sides, taking a ready stance. A faint golden light surrounded her, as if quietly waiting for her next move. Muan slowly closed her eyes. Following Leon's teachings, she tightened her fists and bent slightly, silently condensing the magic within her body. Soon, the magic circle beneath her feet resonated with her power, spinning rapidly and releasing a brilliant golden glow. The waves from the circle lifted Muan's hair and skirt, as if celebrating the successful convergence of her magic. Seeing this radiance, Rosewise raised her eyebrows in surprise. It was the first time she had seen Muan complete the first step of magical enlightenment so smoothly. From past experience with other dragon clans, Rosewise had assumed Muan wouldn't be able to gather so much magical energy so quickly. Usually, the first attempt required several tries. I didn't expect her to succeed in one go. Hearing this, Leon looked proud. He pointed to himself and said confidently, "Of course, I taught her magic." As Muan continued condensing her power, flames slowly emerged from her fists and wrapped tightly around her arms. In an instant, her entire body was engulfed in blazing fire. The gentle yet powerful flames lifted Muan into the air. The magic circle beneath her feet shifted from gold to orange-red. Flames burst forth from the circle and rushed toward her, while the entire array shimmered in fiery brilliance. A symbol representing the fire element gradually appeared at its center. Seeing the flames surrounding Muan, Rosewise felt overjoyed. This meant Muan had awakened the same element as her. Fire! She awakened the fire element! Leon's eyes widened in disbelief. How is that possible? He hadn't expected Muan's awakened element to be fire rather than thunder, and he couldn't hide his disappointment. Rosewise wore a smug smile. This result clearly meant she had won their argument. She recalled how confidently Leon had insisted earlier that Muan would awaken the thunder element, and she couldn't help feeling amused. She turned to Leon and teased him, "Why aren't you smiling? Come on, smile. Our daughter has successfully awakened her element. Aren't you happy? I understand. You've won so many times. Even the eldest daughter sided with you. But this time I won." Rosewise looked thoroughly pleased, knowing Leon's emotions must be complicated. She reached out and patted his shoulder, pretending to comfort him in his supposed sadness. Ever since Noah awakened the thunder element, Leon had been smug for a long time. Now, Muan awakening fire finally gave Rosewise a chance to tease him back. However, Leon wasn't as dejected as she expected. Instead, he smiled faintly. The firelight reflected in his eyes, as if he still held hope for Muan's enlightenment. He stared intently at Muan in the magic circle and murmured, "No." Rosewise frowned in confusion. "No. Isn't there a clear fire symbol right there?" She wondered if Leon hadn't seen the flames and the blazing symbol in the center of the circle. Everything clearly proved that Muan had awakened the fire element. There should be no chance for another element. But Leon pointed at the magic circle and smiled smugly. "The awakening isn't over yet." Rosewise turned back toward Muan, puzzled. At that moment, while flames still surged around Muan and tightly enveloped her, faint blue lightning began to appear among the fire. The blue arcs flickered, emitting a soft glow within the orange-red blaze. Although the blue lightning didn't overpower the flames, it clearly proved that while Muan awakened the fire element, she had also awakened another one. Rosewise's eyes widened in shock. This is... Muan's floated in the air with her eyes closed, continuing to slowly guide her magic. The magic circle beneath her feet resonated once again with her power. The flame magic surrounding her gradually dissipated, and then blue lightning bolts began to appear around her one after another. These bolts quickly covered the remaining flames and emitted dazzling light. The symbol of the thunder element appeared at the center of the magic circle. Upon witnessing this miraculous scene, both Rosewise and Anna were stunned. Thunder element. This was actually a dual element awakening. Leon didn't react as strongly as Rosewise and Anna, as if he had already expected Muan to face such a situation. He was extremely pleased that Muan had awakened two elements, and felt deeply proud of her. As the youngest daughter of the strongest dragon slayer and the Silver Dragon Queen, She was destined for an extraordinary life. Possessing the rare dual-element magic recorded only in ancient books, her future was truly immeasurable. The blue lightning around Moana gradually faded. In the golden magic circle beneath her feet, the thunder symbol transformed into a standard magic circle pattern, and its glow slowly weakened. Moana withdrew her magic and gently descended to the ground. This signified the end of her magical enlightenment ceremony. Moana opened her eyes and smiled brightly. From the ceremony, she clearly understood that she had awakened both fire and thunder elements. Filled with joy, Moana ran toward Leon and Rosewise, her heart overflowing with happiness. She excitedly spoke to them. Dad, Mom, did you see it? Moana can use 2 elements. Now you don't have to argue anymore, right? She raised her hands and waved them lightly, happily sharing the good news. Moana recalled how Leon and Rosewise had argued about which element she would awaken. Since she had awakened both fire and thunder at the same time, Moana believed there was no reason for them to argue anymore. Hearing her words, Leon and Rosewise were both surprised. They hadn't expected Moana to work so hard just to stop them from arguing over her. Silently, they thought to themselves that she had truly gone to great lengths to prevent her parents from arguing. At that moment, Leon secretly touched Rosewise's arm. Rosewise lowered her head and noticed Leon's subtle movement, instantly understanding his intention. She leaned closer to him and gently placed her hand on his chest. Leon immediately wrapped an arm around Rosewise's waist. They pretended to be very affectionate and smiled warmly at Moana, not wanting her to feel disappointed by their reaction. Leon said to Moana, "We're extremely happy. How could we argue?" Rosewise nodded lightly in agreement. "That's right. Dad and Mom are very happy for you." Leon gently lifted Moana into his arms. He carried her toward the auditorium entrance, along with Rosewise and Anna. To celebrate Moana's successful completion of the enlightenment ceremony in her dual elements, Rosewise decided they would hold a celebration that night. Moana happily raised her hand and said, "Yeah, Moana wants to eat steak." Leon immediately volunteered to cook for the evening. He closed his eyes and said confidently, "Leave it to me." It was already evening. The moon slowly rose into the sky, casting a faint glow over the night. The maids of Silver Dragon Castle lit the rooms, bringing warmth and light inside. From afar, the castle shone brightly, as if celebrating Moana's achievement. That night, Leon used his cooking skills to prepare many of Moana's favorite dishes. One exquisite plate after another was placed on the dining table. There were grilled steaks, roasted chicken, grilled oysters, and fresh vegetable salad. The steaks were topped with Leon's rich sauce and finished with rosemary to enhance the aroma. The roasted chicken was beautifully colored and appetizing, while each oyster was covered in fragrant garlic sauce. The vegetable salad included lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, and more, colorful, nutritious, and refreshing. Moana happily picked up a steak with her fork and began eating. Leon, seated beside her, took another steak and carefully cut it into small pieces for her. He said, "Moana did great today. Eat more steak so you can grow stronger." Moana nodded while chewing and thanked him. This is delicious. Thank you, Dad." At that moment, Moana suddenly picked up 2 large chicken legs beside the roasted chicken. She wanted to express her gratitude to Leon and Rosewise for their care and support during her magical training. Holding up the chicken legs, she said, "Dad and Mom have worked hard too. Moana rewards you with big chicken legs." She placed one chicken leg onto Leon's plate. "This is for Dad." Then Moana walked over to Rosewise and placed the other chicken leg onto her salad plate. "This is for Mom." Seeing how considerate Moana was, Rosewise reached out and gently stroked her head. She smiled contentedly and said, "Okay, thank you, Moana." However, when Rosewise looked at the chicken leg on her plate, she frowned slightly and soon showed a hint of sadness. She picked up her knife and fork, but didn't eat the chicken leg, appearing somewhat troubled. After hesitating for a while, Rosewise finally picked up some vegetable salad and began eating. Leon noticed her unusual behavior while eating his own food and silently questioned it. What's going on? The she-dragon is eating very little tonight. She didn't even touch the meat." Leon found her behavior strange. He leaned closer and asked softly, "Hey, I didn't put any cilantro in tonight's dishes. Why do you still look like you can't eat?" He was sure none of the food included ingredients she disliked. Hearing Leon's words, Rosewise closed her eyes and showed a slightly uncomfortable expression. I might just be having some stomach discomfort. After hearing this, Leon thought for a moment and seemed to immediately understand what was going on. He joked, "Are you trying to lose weight?" At his words, Rosewise's face instantly turned red. She turned her head away, not wanting him to see her embarrassment. She stammered, "How could that be? I've only gained a little weight recently. I only weigh a bit over 100 pounds." Upon seeing Rosewise's reaction, Leon genuinely thought she was secretly losing weight. He gave a mocking smile and said, "Girls under 100 pounds are either flat-chested or too short overall. If you keep losing weight, you'll end up looking like a washboard." Rosewise felt extremely unhappy about Leon's words. She forcefully stabbed the chicken leg on her plate with the fork in her hand. Almost immediately, she came up with a way to counterattack. She picked up the plate of grilled oysters on the table and dumped all of them onto Leon's plate. One roasted oyster even slipped off and fell beside the plate. It was clear that she was truly angry. Staring at the pile of grilled oysters, Leon was stunned. Rosewise closed her eyes, looking very satisfied with what she had done. Leon couldn't understand what she meant by this. He pointed at the oysters and asked in a slightly angry tone, "What are you doing?" At the same time, Moana, who was sitting next to Leon, was still happily eating the food on her plate. She propped her face up with both hands, wearing a delighted expression. "The meat is really delicious." Rosewise gave Leon a mischievous smile and kindly explained, "I heard these things are very beneficial for men's health. Eat them all. Don't sleep until you finish." Rosewise slammed both hands on the table and ordered Leon to finish the entire plate of grilled oysters tonight. Leon was completely shocked by her actions. Huh? He couldn't understand how a simple joke had made Rosewise so angry. He was clearly dissatisfied with her behavior. He shouted helplessly, "Aren't you trying to keep me awake all night?" Moana didn't seem to care about their argument at all. She picked up a steak from her plate and took a bite. She happily shook her hands, fully immersed in the joy brought by the delicious food. It had been 2 days since Moana completed her magical enlightenment ceremony, and today was another bright, sunny day. The sun slowly rose into the sky. The darkness of the night had completely dissipated, revealing a light blue sky. Sunlight bathed the silver dragon castle, coating it in a golden glow. Not far away, several birds flew over the castle garden, chirping crisply and reminding everyone inside that it was time to wake up. Rosewise was already awake. She left her room and headed to her office. She couldn't help but yawn. As if she hadn't slept enough, Rosewise flipped through the books on her desk, hoping to wake herself up by reading. However, it didn't take long before drowsiness returned. She rested her cheek on one hand to keep herself from falling asleep. At that moment, Anna walked into the office holding today's schedule. Rosewise gently rubbed her temples and asked, "Anna, what do I need to do today?" Anna glanced at the list and replied respectfully, "In the morning, Your Majesty needs to review letters and documents from other dragon clans. In the afternoon, you're scheduled to inspect the arsenal. Are there any additional arrangements?" Rosewise rubbed her temples again, then her forehead. Her head felt dizzy, and her body unusually tired. She felt she was in no condition to work. I'll take care of everything tomorrow," she said. "I'm a bit tired today and want to take a day off." Anna was surprised to hear this. In her heart, Anna thought, a workaholic for years, and Her Majesty actually wants to rest? Has the sun risen from the west? In her memory, Rosewise worked tirelessly almost every day and rarely took leave on her own initiative. Anna worried Rosewise might still try to handle urgent matters during her break. Rosewise looked up and said, "If there are any urgent matters—" "No, please rest well," Anna quickly replied. Holding the list tightly, she turned around and hurried out of the office, afraid Rosewise might change her mind. Anna hoped Rosewise would cherish today and rest properly without being disturbed by work. Watching Anna leave in a rush, Rosewise felt a little puzzled, but she didn't bother to ask. Rosewise stood up, stretched, and yawned again. She felt something was off about her mental state today. This is really strange. I went to bed early last night. Why am I still so groggy? Unable to understand it, she opened the office window, letting the breeze flow in to clear her mind. At that moment, she noticed Leon and Moana sitting on the nearby lawn. Leon sat across from Moana, seemingly explaining something. Rosewise thought to herself, is he teaching Moana magic? Leon raised a finger and gently waved it, seriously instructing Moana on techniques for using lightning magic. Moana listened attentively, nodding from time to time to show she understood. After finishing the explanation, Leon asked, "Moana, I just explained many characteristics of thunder magic. Do you remember them?" Moana nodded. "Yes, Dad." She lowered her head slightly, resting one hand on her chin as she recalled what he had said. Thunder magic excels at both single target and area attacks, while balancing offense and defense. Master thunder magic and you can face any challenge across the lands. Leon was pleased and praised her. That's right. You remembered it very well. At that moment, Rosewise walked out of her office and onto the lawn. She had already heard Moana's explanation. She asked Leon, "Why do you only teach thunder magic and not fire magic?" Noticing Rosewise watching, Moana became very excited. "Mom!" She ran over and hugged Rosewise tightly around the waist, smiling brightly. "Mom, let me tell you. Thunder magic is really powerful. Dad specializes in thunder magic." Moana was surprised to learn that Leon's abilities were tied to lightning. Leon smiled proudly. "I just taught her some basic techniques." Then he said, "Moana, show Mom." "Okay, Dad," Moana replied happily. She stepped back a short distance from them and stood on the lawn. She closed her eyes and stretched out her hands. "Hey!" Blue lightning sparks appeared around her palms. The lightning wrapped around her hands, emitting a bright glow. "Hey!" She quickly gathered the energy, forming 2 blue lightning spheres. The 2 orbs collided, producing a sharp sizzling sound. The glow of the lightning illuminated Moana's joyful face. Rosewise watched in amazement. She hadn't expected Moana to manipulate magical forms so skillfully already. After only 2 days since her awakening, Moana had already grasped the transformations of magical energy. She looked at Rosewise with eager eyes and asked, "Mom, Moana's amazing, right?" Seeing how quickly Moana displayed her progress, Rosewise widened her eyes slightly in surprise. She hadn't expected Moana's learning speed to be so fast. Although forming spheres was the most basic form of energy manipulation, Moana's progress had already caught up with Noah's. In Rosewise's view, with a normal learning pace, an ordinary dragon might not even master magical transformations this quickly. If Moana continued working hard, her learning speed might truly rival Noah's. Rosewise bent down, gently stroked Moana's head, smiled, and praised her. "Moana is really impressive. What about fire magic? Won't you show it?" Rosewise wanted to see how Moana's fire magic looked. However, Moana showed an awkward expression. She rubbed her hands together, hesitated for a moment, and then answered, Dad hasn't taught me yet. Dad said fire magic is only good for roasting chicken. It's not very useful." Moana innocently repeated what Leon had told her before, already imagining the scene of roasting a fragrant chicken. To her, that roasted chicken must be delicious. Hearing Moana's blunt words, Leon panicked and hurriedly stopped her. "Ah, Moana!" Rosewise, however, felt displeased by Leon's evaluation of fire magic. She turned and glared at him fiercely. "Can you explain this?" Leon grew nervous when he sensed the change in Rosewise's mood. He forced an awkward smile and tried to explain. "Haha, I'm worried that learning 2 types of magic at once would be too tiring for Moana. So I plan to take things step by step. Whether it's thunder or fire, both are equally powerful. It doesn't matter which one I teach first." Leon stepped forward and raised his hand, waving it slightly in an attempt to please Rosewise and calm her down. However, Moana looked puzzled. She blinked and said, "No, Dad, that's not what you told me yesterday." It was obvious that Leon had just made up a lie to deceive Rosewise. Hearing Moana speak so honestly, Leon panicked even more and hurriedly tried to stop her from continuing. "No, that's what Dad said." Before he could finish, Rosewise covered Leon's mouth with her hand. "Shut up." She then looked at Moana. "What did Dad say yesterday?" Leon tried desperately to signal Moana not to speak, but his mouth was firmly covered by Rosewise. He couldn't make a sound. Moana didn't understand why Rosewise was so curious, or why Leon was acting so sensitive. "Since Rosewise asked," she answered honestly. She thought for a moment, lowered her head, and began counting on her fingers, listing Leon's negative comments about fire magic one by one. "Dad said fire magic is too simple. It's easy to learn and doesn't give any sense of achievement. And it's not as practical as lightning magic. Only stupid dragons focus on fire magic." Rosewise grew furious as she listened. Realizing that Leon was practically scolding her, she could barely suppress the flames of anger in her heart. She cracked her wrist and stared at Leon fiercely. "Oh, stupid dragon," she said coldly. "Who are you talking about?" Leon felt extremely nervous and quietly turned away, unwilling to meet Rosewise's gaze. He could almost feel the blazing flames behind her. Suddenly, Rosewise pounced on Leon, grabbed his head and rubbed it roughly. She bit him hard to vent her anger. Leon cried out in pain, struggling to escape, but Rosewise held him tightly. He could only wave his hand weakly. Watching this, Moana felt curious and asked, "Eh, Mom? Why do you look like you want to eat Dad?" Hearing Moana's words, Rosewise froze. She stopped beating Leon, realizing that doing this in front of Moana wasn't good for her mental or physical well-being. Grabbing Leon by the clothes, she dragged him away. She planned to move to another place and continue punishing him. Turning to Moana, she said, Moana, it's break time. I need to deal with your dad. You go play with Anna. Class dismissed. Moana happily replied, Okay. She watched Rosewise and Leon leave and gently waved goodbye. Soon, evening arrived, and it was time for dinner. Rosewise went to the kitchen and personally prepared the meal. She placed Moana's favorite steak in front of her, then set plate after plate of vegetarian dishes in front of Leon. Roasted eggplant, stir-fried eggplant strips, deep-fried eggplant, and carrot salad. All of them were foods Leon hated. Seeing the table filled with eggplants and carrots, Leon showed an awkward expression. His emotions were complicated. Is this the legendary last meal? It seemed that Rosewise still hadn't forgiven him for what happened earlier. Leon stared at Rosewise and complained silently. I just didn't teach our daughter fire magic. How could she treat me like this? Rosewise noticed his gaze but pretended not to understand. While eating her salad, she said, Why are you staring at me? Let's eat. Leon had no appetite at all. He forced a smile and said, I don't feel very hungry today, so I don't really want to eat. Rosewise immediately rejected that. She picked up an eggplant with his fork and said, No, you've worked hard all day. If you don't eat, your body won't hold up. Leon looked at her unhappily but couldn't say a word. Rosewise then turned to Moana, who was happily eating her steak. Moana, do you think Dad should eat? Moana gently shook her fork and said seriously, Dad, you taught me that 3 meals a day are important. Eating on time keeps you healthy. Rosewise thought for a moment, then came up with a reason. She moved the eggplant to Leon's mouth and said, Ah, I see. Are you too tired to use your utensils? In that case, let me feed you. Leon felt extremely nervous when he saw Rosewise approaching him with vegetables he hated. He gently shook his head and refused her. No, no! However, Rosewise completely ignored Leon's resistance. Don't be polite. Come on, darling. Open your mouth. Ah! Before Leon could resist, Rosewise swiftly stuffed a piece of eggplant into his mouth. Leon tried to dodge her sudden attack, but it was already too late. He was forced to swallow the eggplant. According to Leon's master, Leon would faint immediately after eating eggplant. At this moment, his reaction had already begun. His face turned ashen, and intense discomfort surged through him. He clutched his throat, trying to spit the eggplant out. However, it had already reached his stomach. Soon, Leon collapsed onto the dining table and fainted, losing consciousness. He lay there motionless, as if asleep. Seeing Leon suddenly faint, Moana began to worry. She asked Rosewise in confusion, Mom, why did Dad faint? Rosewise replied calmly, Oh, your dad is probably just too tired. Let him rest. After all, she had deliberately prepared food Leon disliked to make him faint. She had learned about his weakness from his master. Using that weakness, she retaliated against his negative evaluation of fire magic. Rosewise helped Leon up and took him out of the dining room. She turned to Moana and said, Mom will take Dad to rest first. Finish your meal like a good kid. Moana then asked Anna to come over and help her cut the steak. Hearing Rosewise's words, Moana happily raised her hand and waved. I'll finish my meal obediently. Mom, take good care of Dad. Anna politely bowed to Rosewise and Leon and watched them leave. Moana innocently believed Rosewise was simply helping Leon rest. What she didn't know was that what followed was something only Leon and Rosewise would know. After leaving the dining room, Rosewise took Leon back to her room, worried he might catch a cold. She gently covered him with a blanket and went about her business. Leon continued sleeping soundly on her bed, clearly out for a while. His breathing echoed softly in the silent room. Suddenly, Leon woke up. He slowly opened his eyes and surveyed his surroundings. Noticing this, Rosewise asked, You're awake? Leon sat up slowly, rubbing his forehead as dizziness lingered. As his consciousness returned, he realized he was in Rosewise's room. He wasn't surprised. After all, this wasn't the first time. However, he was clearly unhappy that Rosewise had used food he hated to retaliate earlier. You actually used eggplant on me. That's despicable. Rosewise didn't think there was anything wrong with it. There's nothing strange about what a dragon and a dragon slayer use against each other. How is this despicable? Besides, I never said what I was going to do. Leon lifted his head and noticed Rosewise approaching. Rosewise had changed into a new outfit. She slowly walked toward the bed, her boots clicking clearly against the floor, each step reminding Leon of her presence. I just want to help treat your illness. Dressed as a special nurse, Rosewise approached him. She had secretly changed into the uniform while Leon was unconscious. She wore a nurse's cap, a tight-fitting uniform, and alluring white suspender stockings. Her curves were faintly visible beneath the fabric, swaying subtly with each step. In her hands were a syringe prop and a medical record board. She looked every bit like Leon's personal nurse. Upon seeing Rosewise like this, Leon froze. Blood suddenly gushed from his nose. He couldn't handle the intense visual shock. Leon quickly turned his head away, refusing to look any longer. Even without her saying anything, he vaguely sensed her intention. Confused and flustered, he pinched his nose to stop the bleeding. Treat my illness? What illness do I even have? Thinking back to what had happened in this room before, Leon muttered internally. After roleplay last time, does this she-dragon want to play nurse again? Rosewise noticed the nosebleed and smiled gently. I see you're bleeding. Do you want me to wipe it for you? Leon immediately sensed ulterior motives. Damn she-dragon. You really know how to play. Leon frowned as he wiped the blood away. No. Hurry up and change your clothes. He didn't want to see her standing there, dressed like that any longer. But Rosewise had no intention of changing. She smiled secretly, ready to carry out her plan. Suddenly, Rosewise reached out and pressed her hand onto Leon's shoulder. Before he could react, she pushed him down onto the bed. Leon's eyes widened in shock. Rosewise pinned his shoulder firmly, then climbed onto the bed and sat on him, preventing any chance of escape. Leon struggled, trying to break free, but it was useless. At that moment, Rosewise issued a warning. Mr. Leon, please cooperate with the treatment. She picked up the medical board and flipped through it, pretending to review his history. Looking at him seriously, she asked, Mr. Leon, according to the records, you often experience chest tightness, correct? Leon glanced down at his chest, then at Rosewise, who was sitting on top of him. Confused, he stared back at her. You're sitting on me. Of course I feel chest tightness. He felt she was asking something obvious. Hearing this, Rosewise frowned in dissatisfaction. She tapped Leon on the head with the board and spoke sternly. Cooperate with the treatment, Mr. Leon. Leon shut his eyes tightly as pain shot through his head. Ah, he groaned, rubbing the spot she hit. Yes. I feel chest tightness. Forced to play along, Leon thought silently. I'll cooperate for now. You'll definitely be punished later.